I started this painting yesterday. When I saw the tulips in flower stores, I was really excited. I got a bunch and I came back home really quickly. I set this really simple still life. You can tell just by looking at the painting that the setup is really simple. It's just the tulips in a jar filled with water on a window. I did put a piece of fabric on the frame of the window just because I got tired of painting white window frames. And so this adds a different perspective to the painting, and I'm already liking it very much. Notice that I also changed the curtains. So my curtains in the windows are red. I took down the yellow curtains. I just figured things will balance a little bit better in this painting with red curtains. The curtains have pattern as well, and I think I'm going to paint the pattern, but I'm not certain yet. It depends on how things go with the actual tulip. I'm running into issues with the tulips as it is, so I'm not sure how much energy I'm going to have left after taking care of the tulips. There are different sections of this painting that I already anticipate issues with. So first, the tulips. I was focusing on the tulips today, and the main problem with the flowers is going to be the fact that they die pretty quickly. So basically, I will have to hustle a little bit with painting these because I started painting these yesterday, and they were all the leaves and the actual tulip flowers were positioned in a certain way. When I came back to this painting today to do the next layer, I was hoping to build on what I've done yesterday, but instead I actually had to rearrange the leaves quite a lot. And I'm hoping I won't have to do this again tomorrow. I'm hoping I can build on what I have done today instead of chasing the leaves and the flowers. I'm really hoping not to get discouraged by the fact that these leaves just change on me so much. So another thing that I know will mess me up is the background. The reflection is going to be the most difficult part to paint, I think. I'm not sure if you can tell, but it's evening, and so I'm no longer painting in daylight, and so the reflection of the flowers and of the curtain in the window is very complicated. I didn't realize that my windows actually contain two layers of glass, so they're double glass, and so the reflection is double, and so I'm not sure how to handle that. I would like to capture as much of it as possible and stay true to the reflection. One alternative is going to be leaving the reflection very abstract, but descriptive enough so that the viewer knows that it's a reflection in the glass. So I don't know, it's going to be really interesting. That's actually the thing I'm looking forward to painting the most. I have a lot of experience with painting the leaves and the tulips in a jar with water, so that's not going to be a problem once I overcome the fact that they move around a little bit. But I'm really looking forward to painting the background. Another thing that's very exciting to paint is this fabric. So this fabric that I put on the frame of the window is silk. The local color of this fabric neutralizes things a little bit in this setup, but overall there are these really interesting scenarios within the silk base that I'll be discussing that later because it's too early for me to go into that kind of detail. I'm just letting you know that that part is going to be very interesting to paint. And I'm also looking forward to painting the red curtain. The reason I changed the curtains is because I did initially think that I'm going to use the regular yellow curtains that I always have in my studio. But when I started setting this up, I noticed that the yellow may be too much because the tulips are yellow. There's obviously a lot of yellow in the green, and then in the background there would be a lot of yellow in the reflection coming from the curtain and the tulips. So I just decided it was too much yellow up in here, and I think that was a really good decision because the red curtains work really well with the green. It's, color theory 101. Yeah, I'm like really excited to do this painting. The fact that I'm painting tulips again just makes me really happy. I love, 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 love painting tulips. I'm having a lot of fun painting this. Again, I think this is going to be test of my patience and my skill as well. But I have to trust my process and just keep going. I was hoping to continue to work on the leaves tomorrow because I really want to finish the leaves as soon as possible because they change so much. But unfortunately, I think I will have to pause and maybe concentrate on the background tomorrow because this middle area is very wet right now and I'm having trouble with sticking the paint to the canvas at this point without like doing the blending thing, which I don't like. I try to avoid blending. I really think I'll have to pause with the leaves for at least one painting session. Another thing that I am not looking forward to is filling up the jar with water because the water I know will evaporate by the time I get to painting the leaves again, and so I'll have to replenish the water. I made a mark where the water is supposed to be as of today, so next time I come back to painting the middle content of this painting, I'll definitely have to get more water in because I want to keep that part consistent. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to that because I'm sure I will disturb the gesture of the tulips and that will totally mess me up. I know that already. So I don't know. I'll have to deal with that when when the time comes. So this is the current state. As you can see, these tulips lack energy and they're pretty exhausted. I do have a new bunch of tulips. I saved them in the fridge. I just wanted to show you how little time I have with these tulips. They're really very fragile. For now, this will have to do. I think today I'm just going to work on the reflection of the jar and the tulip. Let's get to work. I am in big trouble with this painting. I had to pause and kind of decide how I want to proceed, and that's because the tulips are very fragile and they keep dying on me. I think this is the most expensive still life. I already spent like $40 on the flowers, and I am on the 4th batch. So what I have set up today is a new batch I got yesterday, and I'm hoping this batch will last a little bit longer because it seems like it was very, very, very fresh when I got it yesterday. The flower shop clarified something for me. So, I asked, why are the tulips so fragile? I did anticipate the fact that the leaves would be changing and rearranging during painting as they slowly lose energy, but I didn't expect them to die as soon as they have been dying on me. So the flower lady said that the tulips that are available now are not as durable as the tulips that will be available in March, and that's because the tulip season starts in March, not in November or September like I thought. So right now these tulips are grown in some other way. I think I have to do a little bit more reading on the whole tulip thing. Right now what I know is that I have to wait until March to get like really durable tulips. But for the time being, this is what I'm dealing with. I already started this painting. I do not want to give up on it because I have done so much work on it already. And so I did come up with a strategy for going forward that I think will work. But before I go into that, I do want to mention that I did spend a lot of time on the background. The curtain is very easy. I have no issues with the curtain. The only thing I want to mention about the curtain is that I'm going to keep it, I think, the way it is right now without any additional detail, and that's because I don't think additional detail is necessary, and that is because the red is so strong that it already pops out of the canvas. It pops out of the painting, and it already gives this dimensional effect. And again, I think that's because of the red color, and maybe because of the fact that the red is next to the green. So I'm liking the red. The changing the curtain to red was a really good decision. The fabric that I put on the window is very beautiful. When I look at the way the light reflects off of it and the way the curtain reflects off of it and the leaves, and I do see a lot of green, a lot of red, a lot of yellow, like all sorts of different colors on that fabric. I love it so much that I kind of want to concentrate on the fabric only and just ignore the rest. So I try really hard not to focus too much on the base because I decided to keep it low key. So I decided to use this fabric for a brand new painting, a painting that will focus on this fabric only, and I'm going to have a separate setup for that. So I'm sure I'll make a YouTube video out of that, so definitely stay tuned if you want to see how I paint this fabric. But for this painting, because there's so much other interesting things going on, I decided to leave this base low key. I don't want to draw too much attention to this part of the painting, okay? And so this brings me to this area here. So the reflection is very interesting, but very difficult. I think the reflection is the most difficult part of this painting for a few reasons. And the main reason is because the glass in the window is doubled. So I have 2 layers of glass. This causes the reflection of the tulips and the curtain and other elements to be doubled. And so given the fact that I'm a detail freak, I can't ignore the fact that there's so much detail in the background. And so I really want to capture the double layers in the reflection. In order for me to get the double reflection, I have to pay special attention on all the shapes. I mean, as usual, painting is all about shapes, but in this case, in this scenario here, especially like trying to understand how the shapes meet and which layer the shapes belong to is very important in order to get the effect that exists in the reflection. And so that brings me to another challenge, the challenge of me trying to handle the edges in the reflection, because the edges are very soft. So all the shapes that meet within the reflection are very soft edged, so there are really no hard edges, and so that, combined with the fact that the reflection is all in dark values, all of that combined creates this ultimate challenge for me. And on top of that, I'm trying to stay away from glazing, okay? No glazing for me. I am not a glazing person because I feel like glazing is an easy way out. Like when I started painting, especially at the league, the advice is usually just glaze the thing. I understand the concept of glazing. I understand the purpose of it, but I've always felt that glazing is a lost opportunity for trying to learn how to mix colors properly. So I'm using this as an opportunity to get better at mixing colors within the dark value range. That's like ultimate challenge, right? If there is a non-glazing club out there, then sign me up, please, okay? Because yeah, that's how I feel. Also, today is going to be a long night. That's why I am drinking tea. Usually it's too late for me to drink tea, but today is going to be a long painting night. I'll explain why in a second. But going back to this, so all of that combined creates this ultimate challenge. I could keep the reflection very abstract. In fact, when I look at the reflection, it almost looks like a cubist painting. I could get away with some abstract interpretation of that, but I think I really want to challenge myself here and try to stay to the true reflection as much as possible, because I feel like that's the only way I can get better, right? Part of the reflection is also a sign that I have on the wall, and the sign made its way into this painting by accident. I wasn't planning on it initially when I was setting up the still life, but when I started painting it, I noticed the sign and I decided to leave it in. And the sign is not a big deal. It's like something I have in this studio, and it hangs on my wall. The sign is actually going to be one of the most challenging elements within the reflection, in addition to all the other stuff that I described. It's because, you know, the sign obviously contains letters, and I mean, I was able to put in some of the sign in, but what I have right now is not good enough, and I definitely have to correct it. As I mentioned, the sign is not a big deal, but I do want to make it clear enough so that people who speak Polish will be able to understand what it says. If you don't understand Polish, the sign will not matter to you. But I want the sign to be painted in good enough so that a person who understands Polish will be able to read the sign, okay? And also I definitely have to repaint the reflection of the jar and the flowers, because I do want the reflection to agree or to be aligned with the new design of the flowers. So let's talk about the flowers now. So as I mentioned, the flowers are very fragile. I already went over the story there, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but bottom line is, originally I was hoping to build up on this current design, but clearly I'm not able to now. So my strategy for going forward is basically redoing the design based on the current gesture of the new tulips. And I figured that will be the easiest and quickest way for me to proceed, because otherwise I would spend too much time and I would be too frustrated with trying to copy the light, the way I see it on the new tulips, into this current design. So copy the light, copy the value, copy the color. This would drive me insane. So I decided that it would be best, you know, if I have to spend extra time, if that's what it's needed, I'm willing to do that, and I'm just going to repaint the whole tulips, including the content in the jar. So with that, my session tonight is going to be a long session because I want to be done with the flowers. I do not want to chase them anymore. I don't want to spend any more money on the tulip, at least until the next painting. I mean, obviously, I love painting tulips, so I'm going to definitely do more paintings of tulips, but going forward, I will have to paint the tulips ASAP, as soon as possible. So anyway, going back to tonight, tonight is going to be a long session. I already committed to just staying up late if necessary and finishing up the leaves, where I want to be done with the flowers. Today as well, I may have to redo the reflection of the flowers as well. I may or I may not, again, depending on how I feel. If my tea doesn't help me stay awake, then I will have to give it up and maybe do it tomorrow. But overall, my goal is to finish this painting sooner than later at this point. Right now, it's kind of like it hangs over my head as this thing that I haven't finished, you know, and I do not like leaving a project in this state. I like finishing things up. One other thing I wanted to mention is the texture. So the thing about texture is that, yeah, the battery is, okay, my camera is going to die. So the thing about the texture is that, I have to talk fast. When I started painting, I used to put just a little bit of paint on the canvas, enough to cover up the white area. But the more I paint, the more attracted I am to a lot of texture on paintings, and so I started using a lot of paint. I just feel like that's how paint should be used. I don't want to digress with that. My camera is running out of batteries,
so I'm going to leave the subject of paint to another video.
So there is a lot of texture on this painting already, and given the fact that I have to repaint everything, I have to put more paint on top of this painting. So I decided to sand some of the existing texture down, so to make room for the new layers of paint. I think that will be good for the painting, because right now it's just too much texture. It's already messing me up a little bit, so I do want to keep the texture under control. Okay, there's always something that works against me, and in this painting, the one thing that is very frustrating is the fact that I have to paint to artificial light. So the light that's on right now is the studio light, you know, attached to the ceiling, and so this light is not as warm. It's actually it's like a warm, cool type of light, which I like. But in addition, I do have the easel light, which is a daylight, and so when I paint to that easel light, I have it seems like I'm overcompensating for that light, and so my painting, when taken out of context, appears a lot darker than it should be. So this is a common problem with painting indoors to artificial light, but my issue is that I haven't figured out how to deal with it properly yet, and so this painting is, as a result, darker than what I would like it to be. And also the temperatures, I think I'm messing up the temperatures a little bit. So today I'm going to try to paint without the overhead light and see how that goes. So you'll see on the time lapse that will follow that I'm basically redesigning the leaves, the content of the jar, and the reflection. And so I am myself curious how this painting will change. I think that would be really cool to just like sit back and watch after I do the time lapse. So anyway, I think it's time for me to start, because it's going to be a long night, and I like I said, I can't wait to finish this painting. So I hope you're enjoying this so far, and stay tuned for the progress, okay? So am very happy today because I was able to execute on my plan flawlessly, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the result. I am super happy. I've made a lot of progress in the last couple of days, and all the things I talked about in my previous diary entry I was able to address as planned. I had 2 very productive painting nights. A couple of days ago, one night I spent around 8 hours painting straight, no breaks for distractions. I did take bio breaks, but no other distractions. Okay, so I was painting 8 hours straight, and that's why I was able to complete the tulips, and I was able to finish the content in the jar. And so at this point I feel like I'm done with the tulips and the content in the jar, and I can move on to basically just finishing up the rest of the painting. The tulips that I have are still the tulips from a couple of days ago, but naturally they started losing shape, they started losing color. Seems like they are getting bleached. That's the impression I get when I look at these tulips as they dry. So tonight I won't even mix any green on my palette because I do have the tendency to adjust things that do not need adjusting. At this point I feel like the flowers are done. They look healthy, which is what I wanted. I did not want them to look dry or exhausted or bleached in any way. And so if tonight I can't resist the temptation of adjusting things that don't need to be adjusted, I will definitely end up with the tulips looking dry and unhealthy. So my solution to that problem is not even mixing green on my palette. I do, however, am going to work a little bit more on the actual yellow tulip, and that is because for some reason I did have trouble matching the yellow. So I thought cadmium yellow would work well, but surprisingly it didn't. Even if I added a little bit of yellow ochre to warm it up, even if I added a little bit of red, I think I tried azo yellow and a few other shades of yellow that I have. I played around with orange. There are other colors that I have that I use to warm up the yellow, but for some reason it just didn't work. So today I'm going to give it another shot, and I'm going to try to match the yellow to what I see as close as possible. I mean, alternatively, I could leave it like this. It's fine the way it is right now, but there is a lesson here for me to learn from. So I do want to give it another try, and I'll let you know if I discover anything. I spent a lot of time on the background as well, and as mentioned before, the background is so complicated. I had trouble understanding what I'm looking at when I actually started mixing the colors. I have simplified the reflection a lot. So I was able to capture the double reflection as a result of the doubled glass, but I had to simplify it. I think what I see in the reflection is also the light from the windows from the building that I see. And so I think that's the part that I'm missing here. I don't think I want to go into that level of detail. So you just see like there's one window that I did include because I did like the temperature of the light, and I just overall like this color. There is another window that I see through here that is in the building next to my building that also kind of shows through this. Yeah, but I decided not to go there. Long story short, I am pleased with how the reflection went. And important note, I did not glaze, and I have no intention of glazing, and I didn't even blend the edges within the reflection. I see a lot of painters blend edges, and I think this is another symptom of limited skill when it comes to mixing colors. So 2 main rules for me individually as a painter are no blending and no glazing. There might be some other rules that I'll add to my list as I continue to learn how to paint. But for now, those are the two main rules in my rule book. I was indeed able to mix the colors, I think, properly within that dark value range in the reflection. Obviously, there's still a lot I have to learn, but for the time being, I think I've made some additional progress there. So you do see like a white patch, I think it does show on the camera. Those are leftover scratches from me sanding down the excessive texture on the painting, and I did talk about planning to do that last time. The sign is not finished. I feel like the sign deserves a separate dedicated painting session because I want to make sure that it's done correctly. If I don't do this right, I may end up with like this obscure shape in the middle of the painting. So I definitely want to make sure that the sign is done right. It's complicated enough for me to spend an entire painting session on it. One thing I haven't mentioned that I realized I should have mentioned before is the fact that behind my easel there's a little light that I attached that I'm using for this still life, and that is a warm light. If you recall, I decided to turn off the overhead easel light because it was messing up my perception of colors when I was mixing. And so as soon as I did that, things became a lot better. And now you do see the warm design here in the middle of the painting. And so now what I have to do is actually I have to redo the curtain and I have to redo the bottom shape of this painting. And that is because these two shapes are still left over from the time I was painting using the overhead easel light, and the end result here is that these two shapes are too dark compared to the rest of the painting. They don't really translate well. They're not aligned well with the rest of the painting. So I want to redo them to make sure that they match the rest of the painting. I can already see how different this painting is from the painting next to it. So the painting next to it was done to daylight a couple of years ago. I have a couple more paintings of tulips and flowers or plants that I've done to daylight in the summer, and naturally the vibe, because of the lighting conditions, is very different on those paintings. So here's an example. It's a cool experiment, switching back and forth between these two paintings. When I look at them, I get like a totally different vibe, a totally different feeling. This one feels really warm and this one feels very cool. I think this one feels lighter, like in terms of weight. I think it feels lighter, and this one feels a little bit heavier. I'm not sure why that is. I have to think about it. Those are the things I look forward to. Like sometimes I like comparing paintings to each other based on how they were done. So I've been working on this painting for a while and I really want to be done with it. I'm so happy that I addressed all the issues with the tulips, and I can finally say I'm comfortable with leaving the tulips the way they are. I'm also pleased with the sense of reality I was able to achieve in this painting, especially within the content of the jar. And I think when I'm done, the adjustments at the bottom and in the curtain will add to the sense of reality. I like the direction this is going in, but I do want to be done with this painting sooner than later at this point. And so my plan for tonight is to work on the bottom and the curtain, and tomorrow night I'm going to work on the sign only, because again the sign is very complicated, and maybe tonight I'll do the tulips again to see if I can improve them. Again, I really want to be done with this painting, even though I enjoy it. I just want to get these paintings out quickly and move on to other things, and other things being new paintings. I learned a lot in the process and I'll keep you posted on all of that. Let's just keep going because I'm kind of tired of talking. So